Most people spend years trying to understand others, yet they still get deceived, manipulated, betrayed, or surprised by someone's true nature. They trust appearances. They trust words. They trust charm. But appearances are often the most carefully designed lies in human interaction. A person can smile while secretly planning your downfall. A person can praise you while quietly measuring how useful you are to them. Someone may appear humble while inside they are burning with ambition. And by the time their real nature finally shows itself, the damage is already done. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something about human nature that many people either refuse to accept or simply fail to notice. He observed that people are rarely what they claim to be, and often not even what they appear to be. Instead, human beings are driven by hidden desires, silent calculations, and constantly changing masks. Their true nature is often hidden behind layers of behavior carefully designed to control how others see them. But Machiavelli also realized something important. The masks people wear are never perfect. Every person, no matter how intelligent, disciplined, or manipulative they may be, reveals small pieces of their real character through tiny cracks in their behavior. These leaks are subtle. They appear during moments of stress, in casual conversations, in the way someone reacts to power, to weakness, to opportunity, and to fear. Once you learn where to look, you begin to notice something that most people completely miss: patterns. Patterns that slowly reveal who someone truly is, long before they reveal it openly themselves. The truth is simple. Understanding a person's real nature is not about listening to what they say. Words are the easiest things to create. Anyone can promise loyalty, kindness, honesty, or good intentions. Words cost nothing. What truly matters is behavior under pressure. Machiavelli believed that if you want to understand a person quickly, you must stop focusing on what they claim and start paying attention to what they unintentionally reveal. The strongest truths appear in moments people believe are unimportant. Watch how someone treats people who cannot benefit them. This single observation can reveal more about a person's character than years of polite conversation. When someone interacts with people who hold no power over them, no influence, and no usefulness, their mask begins to relax. The performance fades. The careful calculation disappears. What remains in those moments is pure instinct. Some people remain respectful. Others become dismissive, impatient, or quietly cruel. And that reaction tells you everything. A person who is kind only to those above them is not truly kind. They are simply being strategic. A person who respects only those with status does not value people. They value advantage. Niccolò Machiavelli noticed this pattern again and again among political figures, nobles, advisors, and rulers. In public, they spoke proudly about virtue, honor, and loyalty. But in private, the way they treated servants, messengers, or powerless individuals revealed their real character. The moment someone believes another person has no value to them, their true nature slowly begins to appear. Before we continue, if you are finding truth in this so far, I would appreciate a like. And if you want to hear more ideas like this in the future, make sure you are subscribed. Now let's continue. Another revealing moment happens when someone gains a small amount of power. Power does not create character, it exposes it. Give someone a little authority, a little influence, or the ability to control others, and watch carefully. Some people become fair, balanced, and responsible. Others become arrogant almost immediately. They start giving unnecessary commands, demanding recognition, or quietly enjoying the discomfort of those beneath them. Why does this happen? Because power removes restraint. Most people behave well not because they are truly virtuous, but because consequences exist. Social expectations, reputation, and the fear of criticism keep behavior under control. But when those pressures disappear, when someone suddenly holds authority, their inner tendencies no longer need to hide. This is why Machiavelli believed that observing someone when they first gain power reveals far more than observing them when they are powerless. The powerless must behave carefully. The powerful reveal themselves freely. But perhaps the most revealing moment of all is how someone reacts when their interests are threatened. Watch what happens when someone faces real loss. Not small inconveniences, but serious threats to their status, their money, their influence, or their pride. Some people remain calm. They negotiate, adapt, or retreat strategically. Others panic, lash out, betray allies, or abandon the principles they once defended. In that moment, illusions disappear. People often believe they understand their own character. They think they are loyal, honorable, and rational. But when fear enters the situation, instinct takes control. Fear is the great revealer. Machiavelli wrote extensively about how fear changes human behavior. He understood that in moments of danger, people rarely act according to their values. Instead, they act according to their survival instincts. A man who speaks endlessly about loyalty may betray a friend the moment his own safety is threatened. A leader who promises justice may abandon fairness when holding on to power becomes difficult. A partner who swears devotion may disappear when hardship arrives. And yet, many observers are still shocked when this happens. Why? Because they listen to promises instead of studying patterns. Machiavelli never trusted promises. He trusted predictable human behavior. If you observe carefully, people constantly reveal the order of their priorities. Everyone claims to value many things: loyalty, friendship, morality, integrity, fairness. But when they are forced to choose between these values and their personal advantage, their true priorities become clear. The order in which someone sacrifices their values reveals who they really are. Some people give up money before they give up loyalty. Others sacrifice loyalty before they sacrifice their reputation. Some sacrifice almost everything before they sacrifice their pride. These choices are not random. They follow an internal structure that defines a person's true nature. Once you understand that structure, you can predict people's behavior with surprising accuracy. And Machiavelli believed this skill is not just useful, it is necessary. Because the world is full of people who benefit from being misunderstood. Manipulators thrive on confusion. Opportunists survive and grow through trust. Ambitious people often succeed by appearing harmless. The more clearly you can see through these appearances, the less vulnerable you become. But to develop this ability, you must first let go of a comforting illusion. Most people like to believe that human beings are consistent. In reality, they are not. Human behavior is fluid. It changes depending on incentives, risks, rewards, and social pressure. A person who appears generous in one situation may become ruthless in another. Someone who seems shy or timid may suddenly become bold when an opportunity appears. Most people try to define others using fixed labels: good, bad, loyal, selfish, trustworthy. But Niccolò Machiavelli rejected this way of thinking. Instead of labeling people, he studied conditions. He asked a different and more useful question. Under what circumstances does this person become dangerous? Under what circumstances do they become loyal? Under what circumstances do they betray? Because every individual has certain conditions that activate different sides of their nature. And once you observe enough behavior, those conditions become predictable. For example, some people remain deeply loyal as long as they feel respected. But the moment they feel humiliated or ignored, that loyalty disappears instantly. Others are generous when they feel admired, but they become hostile when they feel challenged. Some people remain cooperative when resources are plentiful, but become ruthless the moment competition appears. These patterns slowly form what you could call a psychological blueprint of a person. Once you recognize someone's blueprint, their future behavior becomes much easier to anticipate. But recognizing this requires attention to details that most people overlook. Small moments, subtle reactions, minor decisions that quietly reveal deeper motivations. For example, notice how someone reacts when another person receives praise. Do they genuinely celebrate the success, or do they quietly try to diminish it? Jealousy rarely shows itself openly. Instead, it leaks through tone, timing, and subtle dismissive comments. Also pay attention to how someone reacts when they are wrong. Do they calmly accept the mistake, or do they immediately look for someone else to blame? The ability to accept responsibility is one of the clearest signs of inner security. Those who cannot tolerate blame often compensate by manipulating the story, distorting facts, or attacking their critics. Machiavelli observed these behaviors constantly in political environments. Leaders almost never admitted their mistakes. Instead, they shifted responsibility, reframed events, or sacrificed subordinates in order to protect their reputation. This pattern still exists everywhere today. Another revealing signal is how someone handles secrets. When a person learns confidential information, what do they do with it? Do they guard it carefully? or do they casually pass it along to others under the disguise of concern, humor, or gossip? The way someone handles secrets reveals their discipline. A person who cannot control their tongue usually cannot control their impulses either. And someone who shares the secrets of others will eventually share yours as well. But perhaps the most powerful insight Machiavelli offered about human nature is this: people are far more predictable than they appear. Not because they follow strict rules, but because their motivations are surprisingly consistent. Most individuals are driven by only a few powerful forces: the desire for advantage, the fear of loss, the hunger for recognition, and the need to protect their ego. Everything else is decoration. The stories people tell about themselves are often complicated and elaborate, but the forces driving their behavior are simple. Once you understand these driving forces, people stop appearing mysterious. Their actions begin to make sense. Their betrayals become predictable. Their loyalty becomes conditional. And most importantly, the masks they wear begin to become transparent. But recognizing these patterns requires emotional distance. If you become emotionally attached to how someone should behave, you will miss how they actually behave. Niccolò Machiavelli warned that emotional attachment clouds judgment. Affection can make us blind, hope can make us naive, and flattery can easily make us foolish. To see clearly, you must observe people as if you are watching a game being played. Not judging, not assuming, just observing. When you do this, you begin to notice something fascinating. People reveal their true nature all the time. They reveal it in jokes, in complaints, in the way they talk about others when those people are not present. They reveal it in how they react to inconvenience, in what they envy, and in what they admire. Each of these small moments acts like a tiny window into the structure of their mind. Think about this for a moment. What is your personal small detail? What is the one tiny behavior you watch for that tells you everything you need to know about a person? Tell me in the comments. Most observers dismiss these moments as unimportant, but Machiavelli treated them as valuable evidence. Because true character rarely appears in grand speeches or dramatic situations. It appears in quiet details that people believe no one is noticing. Once you train yourself to notice these details, something interesting begins to happen. You start understanding people much faster than before, not because you are guessing, but because you are reading signals they cannot completely hide. Signals that quietly reveal the truth about who they are becoming. Signals that slowly expose the person behind the roles they perform for the world. When you begin to see these signals, your interpretation of human behavior begins to change. Situations that once felt confusing start to become obvious. Reactions that once surprised you become predictable. You start to notice that most people rarely change their nature. Instead, they adjust their strategy depending on what they believe they can get away with. This was one of Machiavelli's most uncomfortable observations about human beings. People rarely act according to what is right. They usually act according to what is safe. Morality, kindness, fairness, loyalty. These virtues often survive only as long as abandoning them carries a high cost. Remove the consequences. Remove the public scrutiny. Remove the risk. And many individuals quietly abandon the very principles they once claimed defined them. That is why Machiavelli insisted that judging someone based only on their ideals is a mistake. Ideals are easy to announce. Behavior in freedom is far more revealing. Watch how someone behaves when there is no punishment waiting for them. That moment reveals the structure of their self-control. Some people remain disciplined even when no one is watching. Others become careless the moment they believe their actions will remain unseen. The difference between these two types is the difference between internal control and external control. The first type controls themselves. The second type is controlled mainly by the fear of being exposed. And this difference matters far more than most people realize. Because a person who is restrained only by external consequences will always test boundaries when they feel safe. They will bend rules, take advantage of opportunities, and manipulate situations whenever the cost seems low enough. They are not necessarily evil, they are opportunistic. And opportunism is one of the most common human traits that Niccolò Machiavelli studied. If you want to understand someone quickly, observe how they respond to opportunity. Do they take advantage of situations that benefit them even when it harms others? Or do they hesitate when personal gain conflicts with fairness? Many people present themselves as principled individuals, yet the moment a profitable opportunity appears, one that requires bending a rule, ignoring an obligation, or quietly betraying someone, They begin to construct justifications. They call it necessity. They call it practicality. They call it survival. But Machiavelli recognized it for what it truly was: revealed priorities. A person's values are never measured by what they claim to believe. They are measured by what they are willing to sacrifice in order to gain something. And most people, when faced with strong enough incentives, will sacrifice far more than they ever expected. Another powerful way to understand someone quickly is to observe their relationship with admiration. People reveal a great deal about themselves through what they praise. Pay attention when someone talks about the individuals they admire. Who do they respect? Who do they envy? Who do they dismiss? Some people admire intelligence, others admire power. Some admire kindness, while others admire dominance. The qualities someone praises often mirror the qualities they secretly wish to possess. If someone constantly praises ruthless individuals who dominate others, it reveals something about their inner compass. If someone admires cunning manipulators who always win, it shows what they believe success truly requires. Machiavelli spent years observing how leaders spoke about their rivals and their allies. Their admiration often revealed their hidden ambitions. A ruler who praised bold conquerors usually desired conquest himself. A politician who admired clever strategists often valued deception more than honesty. People rarely admire qualities they truly oppose, even when they claim that they do. But admiration is only one side of the equation. The other side is resentment. Resentment is one of the clearest windows into a person's ego. Watch carefully how someone reacts when another person succeeds. Some individuals feel inspired, others feel threatened. And those who feel threatened often hide their resentment behind subtle criticism. They question whether the achievement was legitimate. They suggest that luck, connections, or manipulation must have played a role. Rarely do they admit the real emotion driving their reaction: envy. Machiavelli saw envy as one of the most dangerous forces in political life. Not because envy always leads to open attacks, but because it often creates quiet sabotage. An envious person does not always confront you directly. Instead, they weaken you slowly. They hold back their support. They spread quiet doubts. They wait patiently for the moment when the admired person finally stumbles. Understanding who someone envies can reveal who they may eventually try to undermine. But perhaps the most revealing trait Machiavelli studied was how people handle dependence. Human relationships are often built on invisible exchanges of dependence. One person relies on another for resources, protection, information, or opportunity. And dependence quietly changes behavior.
When someone depends on you, they may appear loyal, respectful, and even grateful. But Niccolò Machiavelli warned that this behavior should never be confused with true loyalty. Dependence often creates temporary obedience. Remove the dependence, and that obedience may disappear immediately. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to always question whether someone's loyalty comes from affection or from necessity. Affection can fade. Necessity lasts only as long as the need remains. If someone serves you because they have no other option, their loyalty will exist only until a better option appears. The moment their circumstances change, their behavior may change as well. This idea applies far beyond politics. It appears in friendships, partnerships, alliances, and professional relationships everywhere. People often mistake closeness for loyalty. They assume that because someone has supported them for years, that support will last forever. But Machiavelli observed that many relationships are not built on loyalty at all. They are built on convenience. And convenience always has an expiration date. The fastest way to understand someone's real nature is to observe how they behave when their dependence on you disappears. When someone no longer needs your approval, your resources, or your protection, their mask becomes unnecessary. Some people remain respectful and grateful. Others slowly become distant. Some even become hostile, as if the support you once gave them never existed. These reactions reveal whether the relationship was built on character or on advantage. Another powerful signal appears in how someone reacts to the success of those beneath them. Imagine someone working under a leader, mentor, or supervisor. If that subordinate begins to grow stronger, more skilled, and more respected,
What happens next? A secure leader encourages that growth. An insecure leader quietly tries to suppress it. Machiavelli observed this pattern repeatedly among rulers and political figures. Leaders who feared losing influence often surrounded themselves with weak advisors. Strong advisors were treated as threats rather than valuable allies. This same dynamic exists everywhere today. Some individuals celebrate the strength of those around them. Others feel the need to maintain superiority. Once you recognize this difference, you can quickly distinguish between those who value collective success and those who value personal dominance. But perhaps one of the most fascinating insights Machiavelli discovered about human nature involves the stories people tell about their own past. When someone talks about previous conflicts, listen carefully to how they describe themselves. Are they always the victim? Always the hero? Always the misunderstood genius surrounded by incompetent people? Patterns in personal storytelling reveal a person's relationship with responsibility. Someone who always presents themselves as blameless in every conflict is quietly revealing something important. They cannot tolerate accountability. And a person who cannot tolerate accountability will eventually begin to rewrite reality in order to protect their ego. This makes them extremely difficult to trust because their version of events constantly changes to protect their self-image. Machiavelli saw this behavior often among rulers who blamed advisors for failed campaigns, generals who blamed soldiers for lost battles, and politicians who blamed circumstances for broken promises. The inability to accept fault creates a dangerous cycle. Once someone begins rewriting their past to protect their ego, they will also begin rewriting their present. Eventually, they may even rewrite their promises. This is why Machiavelli believed that understanding human nature requires paying attention not only to actions, but also to interpretations. How someone explains events often reveals more than the events themselves. Two people can experience the same situation and describe it in completely different ways. One accepts responsibility, the other looks for scapegoats, and that difference tells you a great deal about how they will behave in the future. But perhaps the most subtle and powerful observation Machiavelli made about people is how they behave when they believe they have fully earned someone's trust. At the beginning of most relationships, people behave carefully. They show their best qualities and hide their more dangerous instincts. But as time passes and trust grows, something interesting begins to happen. They relax, and in that relaxation, small pieces of their true nature begin to appear. Not all at once, but slowly. A small selfish decision here, a dismissive comment there, a brief moment of arrogance that slips out. These moments are rarely dramatic enough to cause alarm. They seem small and easy to excuse. But Machiavelli would argue that these small moments are the most important signals of all. Because when someone believes they no longer need to maintain their mask, the performance fades, and the real person slowly begins to appear.